Welcome to the Philantrepreneur Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd, designed to offer tips, strategies, and insights to empower nonprofits and entrepreneurs with sustainable win-win solutions. The Philantrepreneur Show is sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, building capacity through education and professional services.
Well, welcome. This is Dr. Victoria Boyd, President and founder of the Philantrepreneur Foundation and editor of the Philantrepreneur Journal, and I am thrilled, as usual, to bring tips, strategies, and insight for the business and nonprofit sectors. Over the last few months, the Philantrepreneur Foundation has been conducting research on the needs and attributes of working space for nonprofits or social enterprise organizations. There seems to be a lack of just affordable space, and the data has been really eye-opening and also brought to my attention the gap between large and small nonprofits beyond what would be the obvious operational capacity. But over the past decade, the number of nonprofits in the United States has almost doubled to over 1.7 million. And their revenues, dominated by the largest organizations, have increased. But there's also several reasons for this increase, and oddly enough, one being the recession. While many large nonprofits have been in the news for the good they've accomplished in the wake of a shift in resources, this is not necessarily the case with the smaller nonprofits. There's a gap that continues to increase in knowledge, experience, and resources between large and small nonprofits. Imagine what the world would be like if all nonprofits could work to their full capacity, and that's that's what my vision and goal is. One of the areas that came up often, and as a concern, is the importance of professional working space. How that space, or lack of it, impacts so many elements of day-to-day operations, their mindset, effectiveness, and recognition as a viable organization able to serve their mission. The lack of accessible space for nonprofits is impacting the entire community. And today we're going to discuss with our guest working space. Mandy Telleria, principal and owner of VOI, a single-source ideation and design studio committed to creating strong brand and memorable environments through a cross-disciplinary approach. Mandy, welcome to the show. I love that description of your company. We've known each other for several years, and I've always been impressed by your heart-centered approach to work and being a visionary wanting to forge new paths. Your company really reflects who you are. So I want everyone to know, what is some of your background and what sparked this community-centered mindset?
Good morning, Victoria. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great. So, yes, we've known each other for quite a few years now, and we met through an entrepreneurial brainstorming group, right? And so,
right.
So, ideas have always been a passion of mine, but taking them into reality really is really where I like to focus my attention on, whether it be, in the business sector or the nonprofit sector. And I like to work on those ideas in a very well-rounded manner. So rather than just focusing on them, say, in a consulting situation or just in a design situation, I like to combine all of the skills and resources that I have and, offer those to my clients, and also, as we'll discuss a little bit later, for the nonprofit sector. So basically, the idea for my company came years ago when I was driving down the street, and I noticed this little shop that I'd pass on a daily basis, and I could tell they were struggling. And part of it, seemed like a good location, but it just wasn't positioning itself correctly. And I just kept thinking, boy, if they only had, X, Y, Z, and then I was thinking, well, that would mean they'd have to go to, 5 different firms to make that happen. First, branding firm, and then possibly an advertising agency as well as a design firm, and all those firms would have to work together, and that's possible, but that would mean quite a bit of money invested on the, business owner's behalf. So I was thinking, wouldn't it be amazing to have a firm that offers all of those services and can offer them in a cohesive manner at a great financial price for that business owner. So it's a win-win situation. And so I stewed on that idea for a while, and fast forward a few years, I decided to go ahead and do it and start the firm. So basically, my firm offers both branding and interior architecture and design services so that I can service, the hospitality sector as well as the commercial sector and, in cases, residential clients as well. But I can service them and all of their needs under one roof. And that means that they save both time and money without having to go to different firms to make that happen. So that's basically, in a nutshell, why and what drives me.
So your background is in design and architecture. I think you got your degree at UNLV. Give us a little bit of your bio.
Sure. So my background basically starts back in my genes. My dad is a real estate developer, so I've always had a fondness for design and development and architecture. And so I actually grew up in a really small town up north, Elko, Nevada. And so I decided, I did want to pursue design, and I moved here to Las Vegas. And I've been here for almost 15 years now, and I did attend the School of Architecture at UNLV. And I do have a Bachelor's of Science in Interior Architecture and Design, and have a very big passion to explore all realms of design. So within that program, we did explore far beyond just choosing a color palette, right? So we did go into, architectural capacities, and also we learned, the two-dimensional side of design, if you will. And so there grew my passion for graphics as well. So I was able to pull all of those skills together and eventually bring them into my firm. So
yeah, sometimes when we're those big picture thinkers, and you're one of them, it's hard to compartmentalize all of the elements that really lead to what I call a complete package, and that's really what you're presenting with your company. You're presenting, here's a complete package that will help you go from A to B. Instead of connecting the dots, you bring the whole picture already completed. Oh, hey, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can even help a client, develop that big picture. Some clients might have an idea but really need assistance in developing that idea further, and we're able to really expand it and then also implement it as well. So, that's where the ideation comes in, and then the efficiency in making it happen, because a lot of times, a client may not even know where to start, and that's where we come in and consulting that process.
Absolutely. I mean, I on a different level, I work with clients that come with a vision for a nonprofit, but yet there are many elements that go into, even before you pick a name, of deciding what is the best name and things like that. So I think we're almost doing a lot of parallel work in creating branding, but you take it from into the next level and into the actual space that they're going to do that work. And that's, I guess, going to get back to what I mentioned in the show opener. I brought up the topic of professional working space. And because you are a designer and work with the entire environment, I saw that in some of the documents I read, you provided, that environment is also so important. So what is the relationship, before we actually get into what you do, what is the relationship between a working space and the company or organization it represents? You know, are there certain elements necessary for them to be more effective, such as internally getting the job done, or just externally professional appearance and branding? Tell us a little bit about what companies should look for.
Sure, absolutely. The space is very important to the culture of, or developing and cultivating the culture of a company or a nonprofit organization. You know, as we know, space does have an immense impact on the way that we feel on any given day. It does have that impact on us. So making sure that space is designed to reflect not only the brand that we're trying to develop, but also to cultivate the right working environment. And that can be done through a lot of different things. You know, it is a case-by-case basis, but it could be done through, elements such as lighting and texture and color and the way that the space is laid out. For example, a lot of co-working spaces or a lot of commercial spaces and office spaces are laid out in an open work manner. So basically it's just a large open space with clusters of workstations, and that allows for collaboration. And so if that's the type of culture that you're looking to cultivate, is collaborative and engaging, then you may want to have an open space plan. If you're looking to have high efficiency and you have departments that have to work within each other and don't necessarily engage from department to department, then maybe a enclosed office space plan is better for your organization. It also depends on, obviously, the use in terms of the nonprofit sector, as you brought up. Is it a combination space where your staff is working there, and then also your clients, need to utilize the space as well? So, for example, I'm working with two organizations right now, one of which they have a very small office, and they don't really see the public on a daily basis. And so they have a much different office structure than the other organization that I'm working with, where they see clients on a daily basis that need to feel safe and secure, as well as have an efficient staff working in that same environment. And so that has a very different feel and aesthetic than say, an office where it's just for staff. So it really depends on the end use. And,
absolutely.
And your budget and and a lot of different
well, that always comes into play.
All right.
But it's good to know what the end result needs to be. I often talk, teaching and mention, because you teach also at College of Southern Nevada. I saw the letters and I was like, okay. But it's about teaching them that, no, you just can't throw a couple desks in a space. You have to think about what are the needs for the outcomes of what you're trying to accomplish. That's so important. And you're actually answering a lot of questions I was going to ask you later. That's a whisper. Okay.
Yeah, so basically we start with the end in mind is the gist of that. We do, as a professional, you do sit down with your client and you put together what is called a program, and you basically, go down all of the different necessities and requirements, along with, some technical things as far as code is concerned and things like that. But really, how many people are going to be using the space? What is the space going to be used for? How much space do you have? If you're already restricted to a certain space, or perhaps, you don't have a space yet, so you're able to put together, you know, what your exact needs are and then go look for that type of space. So we do start with the end in mind, and then from there, you know, we can put together a budget and work from there.
Okay.
So,
well, yeah, what popped in my head as you were talking, because as you said, sometimes you get the client when they're just starting with that vision, and I know working with you, this seems like forever ago, but I guess it was just a few years ago.
Yes.
We were talking about a logo at that time that I was looking at for branding a specific type of training, and looking at the total picture, you would even help them with creating the look of their organization before you even got into the space?
Yes, absolutely. So if they've got a need for an entire branding package, we take a look at the whole, at the whole organization and really discuss with them and cultivate what image they're trying to portray and what market they're going to be working with, because that does make a big difference overall. One major issue that I see in organizations and businesses alike is that there's a lack of cohesiveness, and that is because, well, it's for many different reasons, but it's one major reason is because they're working with a lot of different entities to make that happen. So they might work with, one person or one company to create a logo, and then they might have, for example, another company working on their website, and then they'll have another company working on their design collateral, and then finally they'll get around to, getting a space, and then somebody will work on that, maybe on a very tight budget, and so they'll end up with this lack of cohesiveness. And then what happens is then they've got to spend more money to try to pull it all together. And so what I have seen is that once an organization has been working a little bit and has had time to develop their brand internally, so what I mean by that is now they really know which direction they're headed, then they start thinking about investing a little bit more into building their brand both, in print, digitally, and in their space. So if the client does have the money to do that up front or is at that stage, it is to their benefit really to sit down and look at the whole picture, because what happens when you have consistency across all platforms is that you're able to build trust with your community. It's a little bit more difficult to have that credibility when you have, say, 5 different logos, which I've seen, and then you go you go into a space that you've made work. You say, I'm just throwing this out there, the walls are pink and the furniture, is not in the correct for the correct use, and you have all of these pieces to the puzzle that aren't part of the same puzzle, and so your clientele may see that and they may lose a little trust because of that. So it is very important to have
a professional appearance that I talked about initially. So about a year ago, we met for lunch, as we do periodically. But you told me about the project you were launching, and at the time it sounded fascinating. And now that you've got it off the ground, tell us about the Good Deed Project and sort of how it came about.
Sure. So the Good Deed Project is a renovation initiative that I've started as of last fall for a nonprofit organization. It's a pro bono initiative, which means that I'm not charging for my services, and anybody else that would like to contribute to making this renovation happen is also donating their time and their services as well as products and materials to make it happen. So last fall, after much thought, I said, okay, it's time to do this. And I had thought about it for a while, and I didn't really know what my first step was, as you know, it is with many ideas. I just knew that I wanted to help nonprofits through the skills that I have. I felt that rather than perhaps donating money to one organization, it may be great to be able to renovate their facilities so that they can serve more people, and it's somewhat of a pay-it-forward situation. So what I did was I put a call for submissions, and I ended up choosing 2 out of numerous submissions, and one of them is a teen pregnancy shelter, which the name is Living Grace Home, and the second one is an abuse shelter for women and their children, which is Safe House. And I chose them because they are doing great work in the community, and they are in great need of a facility renovation. They've been doing great work for years, and all the money that they raise goes right back into the people that they help, and unfortunately their facilities have been running down. And that is a big problem, not only locally but nationally and I'm sure globally, where we have people that are helping other people in our community day in, day out, but their resources are very limited, and they're not able to upkeep their facilities the way in a proper manner. So,
absolutely. Yeah, so describe some of the renovations you did for these 2 organizations.
Sure. So one of them has started, and the other one is still in the works, in the planning stages. So the Living Grace Home, it's the teen pregnancy shelter. They have 2 homes in the valley, one of which is the first phase, which a teen can come in from the age of 14 years old up to the age of 22 years old and, stay for the duration of their pregnancy up to 3 months of the child's birth, and then they can move on to the second phase. The first phase home is the home that I'm working on. It's a 5-bedroom home, 3,000 square feet, located in Green Valley. And basically they've gone about 9 years and served 180 teens, and so that space has really, received some damage and gone through some absolutely. And it's had water damage through flooding. It's had regular wear and tear, but it is really in need of a lot of work. So we're basically renovating the entire space. Where we've started on the bathrooms, which was the culprit for the the leaking and the flooding. So we've gutted the bathrooms, one of them at this moment, and we're basically overhauling it and make sure that we can avoid any future flooding and moisture problems. We're changing out the lighting and making it feel safe and comfortable, and that's really the goal for both spaces. So, a lot of the people that are receiving these services are coming from unsafe situations, uncertain situations. So my goal is to create a space that they can walk into and feel like everything is going to be okay, and go beyond that and really be functional as well as psychologically comforting. So, and also instill a feeling that, not only is everything going to be okay, but they'll be able to prosper, right? So
fantastic.
That's basically what we're doing. So it's a very exciting project in both cases. Living Grace Homes, we're underway, and we've actually set up a fundraising account as of last night for both organizations so that we can also receive monetary donations. Up until this point, the vision was really to have it be completed one good deed at a time, and that's really where the name came from. Originally I didn't have a name for it. I was just going to, make the projects happen. But as I saw people coming forward to want to help, and asking them, you know, what are you able to contribute, and really is just piecing this entire project together in both cases, I really saw that it was going to be one good deed at a time, that these projects were going to be completed. And so not only that, the people that are working these nonprofit organizations, they really devote their life to making other people's lives, you know, safer and happier, and you know, they're feeding and clothing and giving shelter to these people. So they're doing good deeds on a daily basis. And so I just felt that the name, you know, we should give the project a name, and so the Good Deed Project came to be. But going back to the donation, so we have seen some challenges in only having services and products donated. There are times where we need a little bit of money to either complete a portion of the project, say in the bathroom, or the kitchen is going to be quite the endeavor, and so there are times where we're going to need funds to complete the project.
Totally understood. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, initially I was hoping we could just, you know, really make this happen without any funds transferring in any direction, but the more I've seen how it's progressing and developing, it would make things flow much smoother if there were funds involved. And so I have set up those accounts, and I can give that information out at the end for whoever
Absolutely.
would like to contribute. So you know, that's living great. Oh, go ahead.
So the future of good deed, what do you see in the future for not one good deed, but many good deeds?
Yes. So we have the one organization started and rolling. We do have the second organization, Safe House. It's a much larger organization, a much larger facility, a much larger endeavor. So
yes.
that one will probably take a little longer, and it'll take us into next year. We are also raising funds for that project. So for this next year, I see these two projects being completed, and hopefully taking on more projects in the coming year. I don't know what this Good Deed Project will evolve into. Right now, it is not a nonprofit organization. It's just the name of the project. It's just me and others coming together to make these renovations happen. And I look forward to building it into a bigger resource for local nonprofit organizations. I have I've had people approach me and say, you know, are you making this into a nonprofit organization? I'd like to sit on the board, or I'd like to be, you know, I'd like to be a consistent donor of this endeavor. And so it really has turned into something that I couldn't have imagined. So I think that the future is bright for the Good Deed Project and other recipients of it in the coming years.
Absolutely. So. And you know, our first meeting, I made the recommendation to turn it into that nonprofit. So we'll talk later. What we're going to do is take a quick commercial break. Yeah, and we'll be back with Mandy in just a moment.
The Philantrepreneur Foundation. Build your capacity with our educational programs and professional services. Learn how to be a philantrepreneur. Maximize your social impact and maximize your revenue. Visit thephilantrepreneur.com or philantrepreneurfoundation.org to find services, resources, and training to launch, enhance, or improve your business or nonprofit strategy. While there, sign up to receive the Philantrepreneur Journal digital publication. Today's Philantrepreneur Show tip.
Okay, you know, every show I try to bring a tip, and today's tip is more of a PSA. I don't know if anyone has been paying attention, but if you use credit card processing, the current forms with machine or the mobile devices. If you've been paying attention, you know the credit card processing regulations will be shifting on October 1st. That's in just a few weeks. I sat down with Clay Overleen of Cornerstone Merchants, the largest independently owned credit card processor in the state of Nevada, and discussed this new rule. On October 1st, 2015, the liability of a credit card present, that means you have the credit card in hand, transaction shifts to the least compliant party in a credit card transaction. So what does that really mean? This means that credit card issuers, the banks, credit card companies, and the credit card processors will no longer assume the financial risk on legitimate or illegitimate credit card payments. That liability is now passed on to the credit card holder who used the credit card or to the business that accepted the credit card as payment. So businesses that process credit cards using a processor need to have the EVM chip enhanced version, which increases the security level against fraudulent transactions. Most credit card processing companies, even PayPal, are in the process of distributing the enhanced equipment. However, if you have not received notice, you might want to contact your processing service provider.
The Philantrepreneur Journal, a quarterly digital publication reaching over 600,000 entrepreneurs and nonprofits. Get targeted exposure to reach your ideal customer with our unique Ads for a Cause, where 50% of the fee goes to support our nonprofit training and services programs. Together, we can make a difference, create impact, and build capacity. Visit thephilantrepreneur.com, Marketing Ads tab for all the details. Mention this show and get a 10% discount.
Okay, welcome back, and we're going to continue our discussion with Mandy Telleria, principal of VOI. Okay, we talked a little bit about your company, but we're going to get a little bit more in depth because this is really time to promote you and what you're doing. So tell us more about your design firm, VOI.
Sure. So we are a comprehensive design firm. We have done branding for, nonprofit organizations, for medical facilities, for films, and we've done, interior architecture and design for hospitality, hotels, and restaurants, as well as nonprofit organizations. So we really work within all different markets and within a variety of different budgets and project sizes. So, whether your needs are... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, because we talked about the different, and I'm going back to really distinguishing, is there a difference between an entrepreneur and I know you discussed some of the needs of the nonprofits you're working with, but I don't know, it's the markets just seem so vast and varied. So, just how would you define those?
Sure. So, just to give you a little bit of background, I have worked in many different sectors in design. So when I first moved here and started working in the industry, I worked for a company that was basically a representative for many different product lines. And, I worked there while I was going to school, and we basically represented, furniture, lighting, fabrics, and that was more on a high-end hospitality and residential level, not so much commercial or healthcare. And then from there, I went to work at a firm that was in the commercial sector. So I worked with schools. I worked with the U.S. Postal Service. I worked with, different headquarters and back of houses for the casino. So that was my experience in the commercial sector. And then I worked for a firm that really concentrated on hospitality design. And so when I started working there, I mean, we do live in Las Vegas and we have some amazing firms here, and we do have, you know, a passion for and the skill for hospitality design here in Las Vegas. So that was really the beginning of my love for hospitality design. And,
well, you know what? I think we have a caller coming in here.
Oh, okay.
On the line. Let's see. Open up their mic. Good morning. Who do we have on the line here? Hello? Okay. Well, we'll go back to our conversation. Hey, I just see the calls coming in and never know what's going to happen there.
Absolutely. False alarm.
I was getting excited here. Okay, so you talked about right now. What are the markets you serve? Because I know with you know, being an entrepreneur, it's hard to say that you serve all markets. But is there one that you feel is your ideal client?
Right. Our heart and soul is within the hospitality market. And that's where I was headed. That's where the majority of my career has been. I've worked in the capacity of hotels for many, many years. And so working within hotels and restaurants and anything that falls within the leisurely and lifestyle space is really where we're able to you know, put our skills to work, their experience to work. Both in the branding and in the interior architecture and design space as well. Now, with that said, I have, you know, serviced other markets as well, and we are capable of servicing, you know, markets that are in the commercial arena as well.
Have you had and see, my mind goes up. Have you had really difficult clients?
No, never. You know, difficult clients, I think that I'm sure everybody has difficult clients, and yes, I've had a few of those, but really I think that the challenges...
Design-wise. I
yes.
Not so much the person itself, but just figuring out what would work for their design.
Right, and that's where I was headed with that. I think that the challenges come within meeting, you know, the budgets, meeting the time frame. You know, we often say in our industry that there's nowhere like Las Vegas. Las Vegas really knows how to hustle and make a project happen. We just work on a different pace. You know, we work on a completely different pace, and that pace is very fast. You know, we want things done right away, and so that's where a lot of the challenges come in, and making sure that not only do we make things happen on time, but that, you know, at least in my opinion, I pride myself on coming in under budget, and so, you know, that presents a whole another set of challenges. So yes, there are challenges all along the way. From the beginning all the way through the end during construction and during installation. And so you learn how to navigate them and be a very quick thinker on your feet. You know, you make sure that you have a plan B, a plan C, and make it happen.
So we need to warn people not to watch the renovation shows on television and think it's going to happen in 30 minutes, right?
Oh, boy. You know, it's the residential clients that really feel like, you know, things can happen literally overnight and maybe for $500 to $1,000, but really what they don't see is the huge staff behind the scenes and all of the money that gets pumped into making it happen. So we do have an education challenge on our hands in our profession and making sure that we educate the client on what is realistic and what is possible. You know, anything's possible, I guess, but it usually costs a lot of money.
That's true. I'm glad you mentioned education, because I think all of us that service the general public, we have to go through that education curve initially to get them to understand what we're talking about, so that they're not looking at us like we're crazy. And
absolutely.
And being a service, I always appreciate those that feel and have the desire to go back into the education platform or the academia and give back some of their knowledge, because I teach at UNLV, and so it compels me to see and share some of that information. But just tell us a little bit more about what makes VOI a unique design firm.
Sure. So we've talked about it a few times already, is that we're able to offer many different services, but really to bring it home is that, you as a client, Victoria, if you came to visit our firm, we can really develop the idea that you come in with and implement it within your time and budget. So let's say that you're, opening a new headquarters for your organization. We can develop the brand both, on paper, if you will, digitally, and then also within your space. And once we design that space, we can manage the construction of it, as well as process all of the procurement for all of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment within that space. And we can handle all of the logistics and then handle the installation of your project. So in a sense, that's much different from a traditional design firm where they would just specify the product and then hand it off to a purchasing agent and then have somebody else manage the installation of it. So we can handle all of that in-house. I have extensive experience in doing so with multi-million-dollar projects. So it really is an asset to handle everything under one roof.
Okay, here's a sidebar question that I got to throw in. So I'm looking at creating, which I've mentioned to you and on the show earlier, this co-working space, which will be a pretty large open space in some instances, but then some areas will be dedicated offices. Is it possible for just those offices and the companies or the nonprofits that utilize them for you to be of service and personalize their small little space like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you have organizations utilizing the space and they have their own enclosed area, I think that it would be a benefit to have that space reflect the values of their organization. So that when they have
to-do list, you're on my resource list here. You just made it on the list. Okay. So, I don't know. I go into these cycles and synchronicity pays a lot and weighs a lot into how things come across my desk or across the projects that I'm working on. Literally just the last 5 or 6 weeks, I've been focused on this co-working space and facility. And, I posted it on Facebook, and there you are. You popped up. Even though I've known you for years and known what you do, it's just so relevant and in the scope of what I've been focused on lately to talk about your working space, how valuable it is, the need for having an environment that does promote and is conducive to helping you be effective and efficient. So if you had a takeaway for listeners today, especially those thinking about either remodeling or stepping into their first workspace, even maybe their home office, what little tip would you give them?
Sure. First and foremost, I would say if you've been thinking about it, start doing a little research and start reaching out to professional designers that would be able to assist with the project, even if, you're still working out the details, because it will allow you to have plenty of time to work out the details, and also it'll help you to develop your budget. So I know I've been brought in countless times, more often than not, at the last minute where things need to be done right away. And it really is beneficial for all the parties involved if there is, some foresight in looking ahead for the project. And so that'll also allow you to look for the proper space as opposed to finding a space and then trying to make it work. You can work with a professional ahead of time to really develop what your needs and your requirements are going to be, so that when you are in search of that space, it's going to fit your needs, and you're not going to have to, fit a square peg into a round hole type of situation. So that, and also, consider it an investment and not a cost, as opposed to, we just need a space and we'll just get started. Especially if you're a little ways down the road and you've already developed your organization a bit, and this is going to be, expanding or taking your business to the next level, or your nonprofit in your case, it really is worth the investment in making it right. A lot of times when you do something quick or you want to try to do it inexpensively, it ends up costing you much more in the end.
Absolutely. And you will be productive from the beginning. I mean, this is all great information, and I'm sure our listeners, especially those that are thinking about space or need to upgrade their space, I'm sure they need to reach out to you. I know you're going to be one of my go-to people as we go down the line of creating this space, and I can even see it once we're open and running. Those new members and tenants that come into our space, I'm going to make sure that they get a referral to you to talk about what their space might be to have it be most effective and efficient. So I want you to tell our listeners how to contact you, what type of support you can give them, and whatever it is you want to give now. This is your marketing time to reach out to your clients.
Okay, wonderful. So first and foremost, I'd like to give the information out to the Good Deed Project. We are looking for companies to contribute both their services and their time, as well as monetary donations. They can go to my business landing page, which would offer them information on the services that I provide, as well as information on the Good Deed Project and all of the links that they're going to need to join in on the fund. So that would be www.b as in Victor, OI-studio.com. So that's boy-studio.com. And all of the information to contact me personally is on there. But you can also email me at info@voy-studio, B as in Victor, OI-studio.com. Or you can call the office at 702-885-8690. We also have a Facebook page for the Good Deed Project, and that has, all of the links that we need for the project in terms of information and donations, as well as it keeps you in touch with the journey. We post, progress photos and stories of the people that you're helping with your time and your donations, and that is at Facebook, The Good Deed Project 100. And what I can do is put all these links in the comments for the page of this show today, and you can go there and you can just click on the links and it'll take you to whatever it is that you're looking for.
That's fabulous. And again, thank you for being on the show. And they can also find all of your links from today's show, because we have archives of all of our past shows, and plus we have a Philantrepreneur Foundation YouTube channel, which is up and running, and this show Usually it takes us about a week or two to get current shows up there because we're actually loading about 50 shows up there. But thank you, Mandy, for being on the show today. I wish you all luck, and I will be talking to you soon about what we're doing over here at the Philantrepreneur Foundation, because I'm sure there's a place for you in helping us think about what that design will be for our own facility. Thank you again for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Victoria.
Okay.
We'll talk to you soon.
Also,
all right.
Absolutely. Remember, October 26th through 28th, 2015, that's just in a few weeks. That was about 7 weeks. Here in Las Vegas, Impact Learning 2015, a constant challenge for many nonprofits, if not all, is securing funding for the organization. Adding to this challenge, the marketplace shift causing diminished corporate, government, and donor support. Plus, those funds are often restricted and cannot be used for day-to-day operations, so needed for success. Join us for a 3-day immersion guiding nonprofits through the key elements of marketing and implementing a social enterprise business plan to become self-sustaining and self-sufficient, easing the reliance on outside funding and grants. For all the details on registration, accommodations, and the schedule, visit pfimpactlearning.info. And that would be http:// or www.pfimpactlearning.info. And registration is now open. Are you a philantrepreneur with a story to tell? Do you have tips, strategies, or insight for today's entrepreneurs or nonprofits? Then you need to be a guest on our show. Contact us today by submitting a guest inquiry on the radio page located on our website, which is www.thephilantrepreneur.com or www.philantrepreneur.foundation.org. Join us for our next show where we will have another great guest with tips and insights for your success. And so in the meantime, I want you to ask yourself, are you a philantrepreneur?
Thank you for tuning in to the Philantrepreneur Radio Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd. Get involved. Follow us on Facebook and other social media outlets. If you wish to share comments or suggestions or appear as a guest on our show, visit www.thephilantrepreneur.com. Contact Victoria Boyd. Email her at theboyd@thephilantrepreneur.com. The Philantrepreneur Radio Show is a production of and sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.